Cause and Effect by Lisa Renee. August 12, 2016. Website energeticsynthesis.com. Produced by Higher Self.
Dear Ascending Family, during this time of bifurcation, our inner energetic integrity is being tested. This is the time to take stock of how well we are coping with the madness of the earth, as the collective mind of humanity travels the dark night of the soul. Whether asleep or awake, our self-mastery is measured through how we personally deal with stress and chaos. No person on this earth is exempt from exposure to the massive fields of chaos, confusion, and darkness that exist in the collective mind of humanity. If we are not doing well with adaptability, flexibility, and neutrality in our life situation, we must make adjustments to gain strength with this skill set. All people must take responsibility for the quality of their thoughts, behaviors, and actions. This month we explore the principles of cause and effect. As we undergo the bifurcation of time during the ascension cycle, it is supportive to understand that the current planetary consciousness shift radically magnifies and speeds up energetic forces that are governed by the universal law of cause and effect. As we move into the next harmonic universe, the law of cause and effect manifests much more quickly, more accurately, with the frequency being matched, and with more intensity on the material plane of Earth than it ever did before. In every area of our life, when we generate belief systems, thoughts, behaviors, emotions, and actions, this accumulates into energetic content that combines with the vibrationally matched consciousness fields that are in the environment. Moving forward, the energetic content that we send out will return back to us with increasing immediacy, and even instantaneously. Whatever the quality of energy that we broadcast out into the universe, it sets into motion the accumulative frequency of the energetic content that will be directly returned back to us. This is why it's crucial to be able to find our inner stillness in meditation, and broadcast as much unconditional love, forgiveness, peace, and gratitude to the universe as possible. The third-dimensional timelines to which we have been accustomed are much more dense and infected with layers of artificial intelligence, subconscious mind fragments, phantom spaces, and dark entities. As a result of the density, the return of the corresponding reciprocal energies that occurs in the process of cause and effect is slowed down in the lower density, has less energetic concentration, and takes longer to manifest in the sequence of our personal timeline. It was harder for us to connect the dots between the causal event and the actual effect our thought forms and emotions had upon the environment, because it took much longer, required more energetic strength and willpower to bring it into manifestation. During the ascension cycle, starseeds and indigos have been especially targeted with superimposed karmic loads and implants, for the purpose of slowing us down and requiring incredible spiritual strength in order to be in positive alignment with the law of cause and effect. Our group experiences the boomerang effect of the planetary miasma, as this collective race karmic backlash is directed from dark entities, to keep us weighted down and trapped in this lower density. The tendency to experience more interference on our path to derail our mission, forces us to learn more quickly the necessity to maintain clear and pristine energies through spiritual housekeeping. However, the capacity of dark forces to circumvent the law of cause and effect to their advantage is radically changing now, which is highly supportive for our group. In the new timeline shift, the people feeding the lower mental body constructs are receiving rapid repercussion from the law, while those awakening people that are working to open their heart and be loving, are reaping the positive energetic rewards much more quickly. AI systems bypass natural laws. Planetary grid workers understand the 3D reality was rigged, through the insertion of the holographic inserts, implants, mind control and artificial timelines used for the controller agendas. In the previous cycles, the groups of people actively feeding the negative alien agenda artificial timelines, implants and dark entities, were massively rewarded with power and resources. These groups were effectively taking shortcuts with the universal law of cause and effect. Taking shortcuts means they were stealing the consciousness energy of other people through alien machinery and AI technology. They were inserting false holograms to create the causality for their desired effects in the timelines, and then reaping the rewards of others' hard work and consciousness energy. They did not generate this consciousness energy themselves. They either stole it from other people or it was given to them from higher-ups. This included stealing through blood sacrifice, wars and astral binding. They were rewarded as long as they adhered to the negative alien agenda plan to carry out the controller agenda. Some people do not know that consciousness energy exists, so they are not aware of the extent to which these dark forces exist. So human parasitism has been able to thrive on the earth plane. Simultaneously, the ascending people that are working for planetary consciousness freedom from the AI technology are getting psychically attacked. They are encountering obstacles of interference and getting heaped with the karmic loads, which these controller groups were generating as a waste product. Artificial intelligence and satanic forces generate a tremendous amount of toxic waste product. This pollution damages and infects the consciousness energetic matrix of a structure. This collective karmic exhaust is returned back to the individual people of the earth, in order for them to work it off, when it was not exactly being generated by them. AI systems are used to bypass the natural laws of consciousness, and this is one method for creating consciousness slaves on the earth. Those chosen to be the slaves are used to energetically process all of the collective waste product, while they lose their privileges of accessing consciousness, as it is being stolen from them. The masters use the collective energy to maintain their power and rank, while they generate even more polluted waste by setting up anti-life systems that operate in reverse to natural forces, while accusing the slaves of being nothing more than imbeciles and eaters of resources. The law of cause and effect in a natural consciousness system, without AI mind control, works in alignment with the consciousness energies of each person, so that our own deeds and actions bring our own results. In the previous cycles this was not happening in many cases in the shorter term, because of the abuses of technology, and the AI machinery intended to create slavery. This alien technology being targeted to awakening people, made it much harder for those who truly wanted to support humanitarian freedom. In the previous time cycle, we've had to work much harder to get past the enslavement system, because the lower dimensional fields on the earth are rigged with many varieties of AI technology. Most of humanity is not aware enough to discern the energetic signature of AI, or sense the difference between artificial intelligence that operates in reverse to the natural laws, and the organic state of consciousness architecture that operates in harmony with natural laws. The regressive entities and much of humanity continually defy the laws of nature, which manifests as grotesque, defective, and diseased creations in the earth body. However, this shift in the planetary architecture is beginning to change now, as the natural laws are being reinstated on the earth, via guardian hosting, which means accountability is made for every action at the end of the time cycle. No one ultimately gets away with anything, it is just a matter of time. Laws on earth are changing now. To be in alignment with the universal law of cause and effect, and to have the law work to return an abundance of positive and loving energy to us, comes with an important caveat. We must be governed from our heart-based qualities, and be willing to discover true compassion and empathy for everyone, digging deep into our heart in even the darkest moments. Practicing loving kindness and forgiveness in every moment possible. Every decision we make, every direction we take, must be based upon our heart-based feelings of higher spiritual guidance, and in alignment to the service of the universal laws. When we are in harmony with the laws, we are in harmony with creation, and our life takes on greater ease, grace, comfort, and fulfillment in ways not thought possible. The way we make decisions in the outer world has changed forever as our spiritually initiated heart is aligning with the laws of God. This divine source connection is what protects our aura from enduring the types of intensely concentrated dark interference that some of us have endured in the 3D timelines. We may continue to bear the gaslighting methods that are used by the dark forces to assassinate our moral and spiritual character, but the truth will always reveal itself and be made known over time. Dark forces and people that are dark portals are predictable as bullies, victimizers, and control freaks that manipulate. They seek to use intimidation, deception, and manipulation, through fear-based false narratives in order to maintain control over reality, because that's the only trick they have left. If we persist in needing to use control or manipulation methods in our daily life, we will experience the cause and effect backlash, or the karmic return of mental bondage to the old destructive patterns of egoic behavior. This is confusing for many people on the earth receiving the cause and effect backlash now, because they are being returned to the energy that they have repeatedly created with their false identity, in the planetary field. The more a person has deliberately deceived others, the more energies of self-deception and confusion they will face in the external. The methods that used to work very well for them in the material world, when they were rewarded with lots of money or power, are not working for them anymore in the new timeline. They do not realize the laws in this reality are changing to be based on the forces of love, therefore the beliefs, behaviors, and actions must become more transparent and honest to accommodate this change. The backlash of receiving negative energy that a person has sent out into the field is happening with greater intensity and quicker timing. Dark entities jump on that negative energy as it's generated and amplify it into the collective fields, as large as they can. This intensifies the impact of the negative energy, which can be seen as the manifested forces of chaos, confusion, and insanity, as it is being returned to its causality in the collective field. From the collective field, those people resonating with those negative forces become individual conduits or vessels of chaotic expression. Because they do not know what to do with the incredible amount of negativity building up inside of them, they are confused, lost, and acting out in self-destructive ways. It is imperative that the law is understood, that every cause has an effect, every effect has its cause, and there is no such thing as random luck or chance. We all have to go deeply within our heart to study our real authentic self, to figure out the causality links in our spiritual purpose, by understanding the lessons we must master in life. To find the deeper causality of our incarnation on the earth at this time, we begin by looking at the patterns that repeatedly show up as lessons. If we look at the causal patterns present in our life since birth, we will see the arc of their effects threaded throughout our personal timeline. These point us towards the lessons we must master in adulthood to go beyond the pain and obstacles that we have experienced, which lead us to graduate into higher competencies that ultimately help us to achieve energetic balance and consciousness freedom. Everything we experience in life has jewels of strengthening virtue hidden within it, to teach us to become better and stronger people, so that we can gradually learn how to conquer all of our fears and conflicts. These are principles of self-mastery, inherent in the process of spiritual initiation, which is achieved over time by learning lessons and developing virtues to gain higher spiritual wisdom. No matter what is happening in the outer world, we must come into harmony and peace inside ourselves, so that we can live within the same quality of harmony and peace with the world, even when the external is extremely discordant and chaotic. Causality. Causality is a universal principle that everything has a cause. It is the active relationship that exists between cause and effect, and it is the relationship of bringing new creation, new life, and manifesting something that turns possibilities into actualities. Causality is the continual link made between all of the cause and effect connections that are made throughout time, the chain of causal connections that have no beginning or end. The consequences of effects that are made from this infinite causal chain of connections simultaneously ripple forwards and backwards in time. When our consciousness connects with the many causes, which had created the ripple of effects over time, at the point of energetic association, this may modify, transform, or intensify the forces, which interact with all of those same effects in time. We have a unique opportunity, during the bifurcation, to influence these causal chains. During the journey of spiritual ascension, we are designed to grow towards increasing our self-awareness. All of these connections that we have made through the stations of identity that exist in time, these accumulative experiences manifest into links of association that become remembered, thus, witnessed and increasingly self-realized. The continual progression of gaining deeper self-realization of our consciousness experiences, bringing consciousness to unconsciousness, is what allows us to embody more of our higher consciousness intelligence in the physical world. Spiritual links of association that we reconnect with, in order to remember throughout time, are experienced as energetic animation, the direct cognition of sensory experiences that exist beyond the five senses. This is the course through which we gain deeper cellular knowing that reveals information about our true selves. The process of synthesizing our consciousness experiences with the alchemy of forces, that are created from the cause and effect chain, is relative to the current self-awareness and potentials that exist in the emerging consciousness within that person, place, or object. All of these combined interactions that are the result of the continual cause and effect chain, engender shifts and transformations in the consciousness state and in the forward direction of a person, place or object. For many on the earth, the combinations of the cause and effect chains remain static and unmoving, from excessive negative energy blockages. However, when the result of these many interactions induce effects that manifest significant changes, which alter or shift timelines for that person, place, or object, the point in time where the consciousness shift occurred is called a trigger event. Trigger events can be positive or negative in their effects throughout time. If we return to observe a trigger event in a personal or planetary timeline, whether in the past, present or future, we can potentially alter or change the causality, and its ripple effects that contribute to the series of interactions and forces that were energetically connected to manifest effects into events. Everywhere in the world when there is an event that occurs, there is a specific energetic relationship to the many consequences of effects that were also caused by preceding events, which have transpired throughout time in order to manifest that event in the future. And that event is also connected to the collective causality, which is the state of consciousness conditions that exists within the people, place, or object, at that point in time. All of these causes, effects, and conditions interact in some way with those same energies in order to actualize that specific event. Causality in one timeline that may have consequential effects in the future, is blending with higher consciousness and forces of interaction that are connected with that same causality, in many other simultaneously occurring timelines. This is changing the conditions involved in the infinite chain of cause and effect throughout time. We could visualize causality as operating more linearly in the conditions that existed in the previous 3D time cycle, a chain of preceding events that are building up consequential effects for the future. Currently, causality is evolving into a purely spherical system that is connecting into the chain of causality that exists in past, present or future, and all the way back to the source. During the ascension, the Earth experiences multidimensional blending throughout simultaneous timelines, which act to merge with the series of chains of causal events and their effects throughout the universal cycle. These combined energies integrate in order to change conditions that reach the full completion of the previous consciousness time cycles, whether we want to participate or not. It helps to remember that the state of consciousness experienced is also relative to the same conditions that exist in the time cycle experienced. The planet is coming to the end of the 3D consciousness time cycle, so this fact will shift our consciousness to perceive something else. If we are severely energetically imbalanced or refuse to adapt, we can self-destruct from pain, if we persist in the old ways. Now we have the opportunity to complete old time cycles and not have to repeat them, by returning to the links of causality that are relative to the changing conditions produced by the multidimensional blending. As the multidimensional blending is occurring while our body is in the lower density fields, we are able to spiritually link and connect with our infinite source consciousness. This completion of time cycles is occurring now as we are able to retrieve the most ancient and eternal aspects of our being, by linking with its chain of causality in and out of time, all the way back to God's source. If we consider how the law of cause and effect is impacting our consciousness, we will want to become more responsible for our thoughts and behaviors, in order to be aware of what quality of entity is the cause, and what quality of entity can be an effect. When we shift our consciousness state to pay attention to this causal chain of interaction that plays out in between the forces existing in our world, with our clear intention and witnessing, we can change the quality of impact these forces have through understanding how this universal law is operating in our lives. This is responsible co-creation with the world of forces and the God source. Our ability to consciously choose between the different possible courses of action, moment to moment, is how we practice the principles of self-determination, which is required to develop the spiritual maturity that embodies as real spiritual sovereignty. This will lead us to take responsibility for everything that happens in our life, because we know how the law operates, even when the matrix of reality is being controlled with harmful agendas that are impacting the mass consciousness. Self-responsibility as child-abused adults. All human beings are responsible for their thoughts, deeds, actions and behaviors, in all conditions of which they are exposed. All of these are direct choices that are made by each person in the moment that will have direct consequences that impact them. We must remember that at some point, we chose to come to the earth to experience and observe the control matrix, phantom spaces, and deception that has happened here. We came with specific spiritual missions to help heal that negativity in the earth through our higher consciousness body. For that, we must take responsibility for the purpose that we are incarnated on the earth, no matter how difficult the outer world may appear to be. There are profound reasons for being incarnated during the ascension cycle, and we must find greater acceptance for this fact, so as adults, we can accept full responsibility for being here. Taking responsibility for our life situation and removing blame, correctly aligns us to the law of cause and effect, so the law will be able to work more positively for the results of healing and actualization of spiritual purpose. This can be very difficult to accept when we are unable to understand the direct causality related to child abuse, and the trauma inflicted during childhood, that emotionally and spiritually stunts many people into adulthood. In our community, we are aware that this is the archontic deception strategy that is carried out specifically to abuse the children of the earth. Many adults on the earth today have experienced childhood trauma and childhood abuse that results in shutting down their heart and oppresses their emotional and spiritual growth. This is designed to impair and damage their emotional competency and self-esteem in life. As challenging as it may be to progress beyond this childhood pain, it is imperative that the adult take actions of self-responsibility in order to free themselves from the bondage of continuing to carry that pain. To begin to free ourselves, we must open our heart and be vulnerable in order to really look at our hurt feelings and process those emotions. The more we hold back expressing emotional hurts, the more this festers as internal conflicts, that build up tensions and energetic blockages in our pain body. Many times taking the action of self-responsibility to process and forgive painful emotions will dissolve the energetic link that the child had bonded with their false parent, during the abuse cycle that they had suffered from in the past. These energetic links can form into attachments that feed into destructive energies such as codependence, addictions, and a variety of self-abuses that attract dark entities. We can make this choice at any time to forgive our past, forgive others, and forgive ourselves from the abuse that we have suffered, which dissolves the destructive links and negative attachments. The false parent is the main victimizer archetype that is used to create pain and trauma in the child, when that child is totally dependent upon that adult person. When abuse is suffered in childhood, destructive attachments and negative bonds are formed within that child that carry into adulthood, if they are not cleared. To free the body, mind, emotions, and spirit from the bondage of trauma induced by parents or others when we were children, we must take responsibility to learn how to love ourselves and unconditionally forgive what has happened to us. This action dissolves the causality and the consequential effects, as well as later entanglements that this pain has created throughout the child's timeline, all the way into adulthood. Unhealed childhood trauma and pain is commonly carried over into our adult intimate relationships, infecting them with pain and leading into unhealthy and destructive relationships. When we are able to unconditionally forgive the situation and love ourselves, we learn that what happened to us as a child had nothing to do with our real self. We shift our thinking to reflecting upon what lessons we have learned, and what strengths we can take away from that experience. We must shift our concept of the parent that exists on the external, to become the parent that exists in the internal self, and know that we are the true spiritual parent for ourselves. Our self-worth is not relative to how our biological family or adopted parents treated us as children. When we change the way we perceive our negative experiences, we are able to own our own emotional conflicts without blame, guilt, or projection upon another person, by needing to make it their fault. The setup on earth is to disempower people into always thinking that their misery is someone else's fault, so that they are always in a state of blaming something else outside of themselves. This creates powerlessness and cycles of victimization that trap the person into compliance with the enslavement programs. Do not assume that you know anything about that person that can be judged for what you cannot see or really know, as you have not walked in their shoes. Many people on this earth live with a broken heart, experiencing a large amount of isolation, misery, and fear throughout their life. Chances are you had a parent or other people that acted these feelings out on you. When feeling emotionally upset, we can restore balance to our heart and aura, by lovingly holding our personal boundaries, without violating others' boundaries, by expecting them to resolve our emotional conflicts. This requires that we are willing to be open to learn what the real issue of conflict or pain is, and why it is there. The source of pain will reveal itself in your unchecked behaviors, blaming others, or in unconscious reactions. Most of the time what you think is causing your pain, by judging it from what you see on the surface, is not really what is causing the pain you are feeling. It is much deeper than that. By going deeper and reflecting on unconditional forgiveness of yourself and others and allowing the time required to heal, helps to neutralize the inner conflict. Learning how to become responsible in recognizing when we need to process emotions and hurt feelings is a major step in productive negative ego clearing and spiritual maturity. When we have been severely abused as children, we grow up into adults that have very little reserves of unconditional love for ourselves. As we develop into our own spiritual parent, it will be up to us to grow as much unconditional love reserves as possible, to help restore the depletion of love that this abuse has created in our heart. This is why having a direct relationship with the God source in our life is so important. It is the most pure source of unconditional love we will ever experience. Our actions bring our results. Whatever quality of energies that we prepare our body to be resonant with or express as a spiritual conduit, whether it is positive forces or negative forces, is what we allow ourselves to be in consent with. We all want to understand the difference between positive and negative forces, so that we can determine the positive and negative effects that these forces will return, when they manifest in our life. If we do not understand the causality of effects that happen in our life, and if we cannot determine the difference between positive or negative forces when they are acting in our life, we become very confused and unhappy. Positive actions bring positive results. Negative actions bring negative results. Our actions bring our own results. A positive cause will reap a positive outcome. This may not be visible in a specific event, especially if you are trying to control the outcome towards something that you have labeled as positive. It is not up to us to decide the outcome of events by intentionally manipulating to get what we think we want, because that interferes with synchronicity of the law. Interference attracts more interference. Getting what we think we want to make us happy is not always positive. Many times this can bring negative results. We must learn to use our heart and feel into it first. The goal is to know that the more positive deeds and actions we generate, the more positive effects we will accumulate, to bring more positive results in our life. Positive results are not purely materialistic objects, but the heart source inside of things that truly bring us happiness, peace, and fulfillment. If we choose to be in consent with positive forces, and we want to multiply them in our life, we understand that our positive deeds and actions will create more positive forces, and this causes the ripple of positive effects that will return good results back to us. A negative cause will reap a negative outcome. If we dwell in the negative forces, and if we carry out negative actions, this generates more negative results in our life. Negative effects that seem to be repeatedly occurring are coming from negative causes. If this is occurring, our job will be to really study our behaviors and actions to be able to determine what negative forces or negative causes are contributing to the problem, so we can clear them out. The biggest problem with negative forces is that most people have been conditioned to think negative forces are actually positive forces, so they are very confused about how these forces actually impact them. Sometimes people are doing harmful things to themselves that make them feel good or comfortable in some way, such as refusing to face the unpleasant truth, or taking recreational drugs to get high. Refusing to face the truth in situations contributes to self-deception, and deception is a negative force in our life that generates negative results. Getting high on drugs is not a positive force, no matter how it makes us feel, it is a negative force. The more the negative force is thought of as a positive force, the person is getting more negative results in their life, but is confused as to why this is happening. The negative forces on this earth are imposters, and they represent themselves as positive forces, when they are not. These forces deceive people into believing that they are something that they are not. This is why learning how dark forces work to spread negative forces in the world, is very helpful in discerning the difference between positive forces and negative forces. Most people do not want to have a series of negative results that are repeatedly coming from negative causes in their life. But until they understand that negative forces have negative effects on our entire human being, they are stuck in the painful cycle of yielding negative results. Our actions bring our own results. On planet Earth, to keep people in the negative cycle, they are taught to blame other people for their misfortune and unhappiness. When people suffer negative results, they immediately blame other people. This is wrong thinking that leads to disempowering beliefs and only creates more personal suffering and unhappiness from more negative results. We must change our thinking to accept that our actions bring our own results, and that other people's actions are not responsible for the effects or conditions that we experience in life. This does not mean that we should accept blame for other people abusing or mistreating us. It means we always start with taking responsibility for our own actions first, and then focusing on what we can do to generate as much positive energy in our life, no matter what the conditions. We may see what is happening in the collective, but we do not allow the collective programs to infect us with wrong thinking, that will bring us more suffering and negative results. We must study our life to truly understand that we cannot compare our life to any other person. We all have specific spiritual lessons and tasks, and we reap only what we have made the effort to plant, in the conditions we have. If we want to change the conditions we are in, we must plant the seed of change that we want to grow. If you do not know exactly what the seed is that you need to plant, you ask God to do it on your behalf. Then continue to generate as many positive actions for yourself and others, and follow the higher guidance coming from your heart and trust it is leading you to yield more positive results in the future. Law of intent and consent. Whatever kind of force we are in consent with, whether we know this or not, is the quality of energy that our body and consciousness is subjected to in universal law. The quality of spiritual force will have corresponding dimensional laws, which govern the actions of that quality of that spirit. Negative forces are in the lower dimensions and create servitude and bondage to time, while positive forces of the spirits of Christ are in the highest dimensions and create sovereignty and freedom for the soul and spirit. What we think with our intent will be in consent with the frequency match of the forces that we generate, and the force we create with is our authority in the structure that we are building. What we build in the law of structure is what we have created with accumulated or combined forces. This creation, whether perceived as intangible or tangible, will have an energetic cause and effect upon our body, mind, consciousness, and all of our life experiences. When one has the knowledge of the law of intent, they naturally develop their consent with whatever energy, force, or structure they are interacting with or co-creating with. That force of energy, whether positive or negative, is used to create a structure, and that will determine the authority with which that structure has been built. As long as that structure has been built with that same intent, consent, and authority, it will remain as the governor of that structure. This lack of knowledge is the most common reason why an individual that has unknowingly co-created with the negative causes, that are the imposter spirit forces, becomes increasingly entangled with these negative forces, creating more negative results from law of cause and effect. Many people cannot discern negative forces and the levels of deception carried out by the imposter spirits. This is a loophole created from the alien machinery and its inorganic AI architecture that has manipulated human beings to co-create with these negative forces, in order to grow and spread their negative effects on the earth plane and in other dimensions. Uncleared conflicts create mental anxiety. The lower particle fields in the third dimension are rolling up into higher dimensional spaces, and are ceasing to exist in the same way that they were. The contents that were in these lower particle fields include the collective unconscious mind and body pain of all of humanity. All of this content of unconsciousness and pain is coming to the surface of the earth to be made visible, and people do not know what to do with the painful content when they are feeling it, or when it is pushing to be expressed through their body. This shift is unseen in the visible light spectrum, and although many people cannot see the dimensions rolling up, they can feel it happening. When people cannot see something occurring externally, they can still feel it occurring internally. If there are no words or context to describe the feeling, and no one else is talking about it, this unknown feeling can bring anxiety, doubts, and fears. If this accumulated anxiety is not addressed, it builds momentum and the unprocessed content can be emotionally or physically explosive. In the extreme, we can see many lost and confused males under 30 acting out the unconscious rage surfacing from these lower particle fields. They are used by dark forces to magnify the victimizer programs through inflicting pain and hurt on many more people near them. Many people can feel that the energetic root in the third-dimensional foundation of the earth field has shifted, which lends to sensations of great anxiety, tension, and stress. This is the feeling of having no secure foundation or safety, as if the floor and walls are crumbling away. When the foundation of our third-dimensional identity is crumbling, the consciousness of the body feels anxiety and stress, through the confusion of not comprehending what is actually occurring. The Earth is entering an amplified state of multidimensional bleed-through, as many other realities are spilling into this reality, and the accumulated energies, entities, and experiences are very confusing for many. People do not know how to process what they are feeling, what they are experiencing, and how to give it proper context, from all the lies and deceptions they have been told about the nature of reality. As a result, we see the outward manifestation of constant mental anxiety and exhibiting imbalanced to extreme negative behaviors. These are the uncleared mental and emotional conflicts, which exist inside that person, which can further create fragmentation and attachments. Sadly, this is resulting in the extreme mental and emotional imbalances that are manifesting outwardly in many of the Earth population, who are being suppressed from accessing multidimensional consciousness anatomy, as well as ascension knowledge. People that are unprepared mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, to comprehend the impact of these ascension changes made upon our body, are subjected to excessive sensations of emotional tension and mental anxiety. Unfortunately, the suppression of consciousness information has been made successful by labeling multidimensional consciousness experiences as psychological or emotional diseases. Nonetheless, with non-judgment and unconditional love, it is imperative to address unresolved conflicts that create anxiety in our mind, emotions, and body, and apply clearing and healing tools to remove discord, and replace these negative feelings with neutrality and inner harmony. With some basic energetic context and proper meditation tools, this can be accomplished. When personal effort toward healing or improvement is made, it does not matter what kind of belief system that person has. Dissolving the 3D personality. The incarnated station of our identity that was our personality matrix, the aspect that was enmeshed with the lower three-dimensional frequencies, is also dissolving. What this equates to is the dissolution of our personality matrix or station of identity that was located in the lower three dimensions, and moving that aspect of our identity into the higher frequency bands of our soul matrix or higher station of identity. What happens to the people on the earth who believe that they are only their personality identity, when it begins to dissolve? We can see the effects of that consciousness shift now in the global scape. The range of experience for some people is from sensations of great anxiety, stress, and mental confusion all the way to the descent into madness and insane behaviors. Most people are not aware they are losing coherence, and are unaware of the causality of what is actually influencing the way they think and behave. The lower dimensional contents that exist in the planetary collective consciousness fields are undergoing massive reconfiguration in multiple ways. This energetic change in the 3D reality has reached critical mass, which means it is greatly impacting all people of the earth. Whether asleep or awake, the self-mastery that has been either lost or gained is measured in how you personally deal with stress and chaos. No person on this earth is exempt from the exposure to the massive fields of chaos, confusion, and darkness that exist in the collective mind of humanity. During this time, our inner energetic integrity is tested in order to hold neutrality, while facing the great forces of chaos. This is being tested in every person, just from the mere fact of being on the earth at this time. How well are we able to adapt to change and hold neutrality in every kind of stressful situation? We have to measure our competency level now. If we are not doing well with adaptability, flexibility, and neutrality in our life situation, we must make adjustments to gain strength with this skill set. This is the time to take stock of how well we are coping with the madness of the earth, as the collective mind of humanity travels the dark night of the soul. What does this take and what is being asked of us? All people must take responsibility for the quality of their thoughts, behaviors, actions, as all consciousness that is created has a direct cause and effect. Since 2009, we have consistently emphasized the necessity of moving out of the 3D consciousness fields, and from feeding those energies, by identifying and clearing the 3 layers of the negative ego that are run in the lower dimensional fields. The clearing of negative ego is mandatory in order to adapt to the shifting timelines, and to maintain coherence and sanity. It is imperative to address unresolved conflicts that create anxiety in our mind, emotions, and body, and apply clearing and healing tools that replace our previous ways of thinking with neutrality, love, and peace. Grail Point and Stargate System. Planet Earth has a crystal body anatomy that holds many energetic constructs, which form into chakras, axiotonal lines, ley lines, and the many energy vortices that make up the layers of the entire planetary auric body. The fact this planet was originally created from the diamond sun architecture, reveals the true creator of this planet and the progenitor of the human species. This remains the truth no matter what extraterrestrial race has planted its flag on the Earth's surface, claiming the Earth as their territory. Starseed grid workers may sense and work with many of these holographic constructs in the Earth grid, which form the basis of understanding the energetic architecture of the Earth consciousness body, and how this structure creates the many realities and time fields. The many-dimensional layers in the Earth's auric body are the container for the entire collective consciousness on the planet. These structures hold the content of all of the consciousness that manifest into the many different kingdoms and species that exist on the Earth. They hold the point of origination for all of the collective consciousness energy that was originally seeded onto the planet, and entered the material realm from the Grail Point. The Grail Point is located within the planet's second-dimensional stargates, with its primary access being within the Temple Mount. The planetary chakra system, also called stargates, acts to step down the higher energies transmitting from the source field into the sun, which is then directed into the many stargates. The stargates transmit an energetic spectrum of frequencies, moving from the higher to lower dimensions, in order to reach the matter fields and circulate them throughout the planetary grid network. Stargates create spirals of these energies, which are designed on a frequency scale to circulate the God source energy into reciprocal exchanges with multiple dimensions of creation. The frequency scale of the spirals of energy feed into the manifested realms of space and time, returning back into the center point of the feedback loop, thus, returning to unite with the God source field. The planetary stargate that receives the transmission of the source field for distribution into the rest of the planetary grid system, is the Grail Point or Grail Point. As many of us may be sensing, the transmission of the intergalactic plasma waves from the source field into the Grail Point and the planetary stargates, is greatly accelerating now. This intensifies higher sensory experiences of multidimensional bleed-through, lifting the veil between dimensions. Thus, more people are sensing an array of dark and light entities, sensing people that have passed their physical body, but are still existing in other dimensions on the Earth plane. Moving forward, more people will have experiences with passed-on relatives, people existing in other dimensions, seeing a variety of spiritual entities, orbs, elementals, etc. The intensity of the current shift amplifies an array of multidimensional experiences, and we are the experiencers in the changing of the guard to help the masses know that this is a natural result of planetary ascension. We must normalize multidimensional experiences as a healthy perception of reality in a humane society. The planet's lowest density dimensional frequency bands and their energy vortices are gradually rolling up and dissolving into the Grail Point. As the energetic contents that had existed in the lower 3 dimensions changes its location and frequency level, it is reconfigured or it is processing through the Grail Point. The Grail Point in our personal body resonates with the sexual organs and sacral areas, and it holds the unprocessed content of our pain body. Therefore we must address this pain body, in all ways to find unconditional love, healing and forgiveness for the contents of the pain that was recorded there. This is similar to saying the cycle constitutes the separation of the wheat from the chaff, as the debris or lower energetic constructs in our pain body and unconscious mind are being dissolved, then harmonized, and what remains is shifting with us into the next harmonic universe. If we are flexible and cooperate with the ascension process, we can experience a massive pain body healing and release of bondage from pain. This changes previous trigger events based on pain that had been recorded throughout our personal and planetary timelines. This has a chain reaction that changes the relationships between cause and effect, meaning the causes held in the lower dimensions can be dissolved, and no longer have an effect in future timelines. Please only take what is useful for your spiritual growth and discard all the rest. Thank you for your courage and bravery to be a truth seeker. I am God, sovereign, free. Until next, stay in the luminosity of your avatar Christos Sophia heart path. Please be kind to yourself and each other. With a loving heart, Lisa.